Hello, my name is Scott Shadley. I'm the current co-chair of the Computational Storage Technical Working Group here at SNIA. I'm also a member of the board of directors, and I represent NGD Systems as their VP of Marketing. I'm here today to talk to you about what's going on with the Computational Storage Technical Working Group and give you a little bit of an update. I thought it'd be fun to share a sunny blue sky from Southern California, my hometown now, and share a little bit of what's going on in the marketplace with you. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about today relates to what's going on in the marketplace and what's going on in the industry. So we all know that the technical working groups within SNIA drive a lot of support of industry standards and moving things forward, but sometimes it's not always known exactly what that impact is to the broader marketplace. And so what we're going to do is spend a few moments talking about what's happening outside of the working group itself and in the industry. So from a market awareness and traction, as I call it, there's been a lot of work done by the member companies, by the SNIA Technical Working Group, and of course the Special Interest Group to get the technology as a more broadly accepted and known technology. Our friends at computerweekly.com recently did a 13-part series on computational storage. You can see on some of the pictures here on the screen that it's a series that they put together for the developers platform. And I've highlighted a couple of the different articles, including one in which I participated as a board of directors for SNIA. The uniqueness of this particular one is most of the feedback comes from consumers of the technology or potential partners in the space. And a lot of it is feedback from industry experts that are not currently members of SNIA. So it does show that the breadth and attention that SNIA and the Computational Storage Working Group have is driving some additional traction and effort. Another way to think about how well the market is accepting new technologies is looking at things like the Gartner analyst reports. So Gartner, IDC, 451, Forrester, these are all companies that talk to vendors, talk to customers, and come up with architectural alignments around those particular platforms. They were putting out these things called cool vendor reports, and the final report in 2018, a computational storage working group member received the cool vendor acknowledgement from Gartner as the first in a series of efforts within the Gartner organization to drive awareness of computational storage. They didn't do any additional cool vendor reports for 2019 or 2020, but when they brought it back to its new iteration in 2021, again, another computational storage twig member received that acknowledgement as a cool vendor. Now, between 2018 and 2021, Gartner has since started paying much more attention to computational storage, and you can see these hype cycles that are shown in the center of the page. One of the unique things about the hype cycles is you generally end up on one, not many. And computational storage, having both the compute and the storage, means that we are actually seeing the technology arrive in both of those hype cycles. And another thing is when you enter a hype cycle, you tend to enter on the very early adopter side. And you can see that they've already acknowledged that there's more traction than just being brought into marketplace. We're literally trailing right behind NVM and quantum computing, depending on which hype cycle you look at. So the opportunity still exists to do a lot of additional great work with computational storage and the technical working groups. Another effort that tends to help is when you get national governments involved. So the United States national government has a whole series of labs that they have around the country. And one in particular is called Los Alamos National Labs. It's a high performance computing lab out of New Mexico. They created a platform called EMC3. It's a consortium of a bunch of different companies, and you can see here they have an acknowledgement of their work in computational storage, and they'll be releasing some additional updates to that as we get in through the rest of this summer, including press releases with member companies and presentations that they'll be doing at SDC US coming up in September. They did also present recently at the PMCS Summit from SNIA in April, so you're welcome to go back and listen to that. The chief scientist there, his name is Brad Settlemyer. He gives a great customer-facing view of what's going on within computational storage space and their frame of reference. So the market is starting to see it. The market is starting to pay attention to it. We're getting a lot of attention and direction from that. Part of that has to do with what's happening within the technical working group itself. So if we look at the working group itself, you can see that we're up to 51 unique companies. The graph on the right of the page actually doesn't have everybody yet. I simply have not had time to update the total graphic. So I apologize to the new members that may not see their logos there. We'll get that fixed for the next presentation in SDC US and other CS-SIG-based presentations. But we have 258 individuals from those 51 companies that are actually partaking in The awareness of computational storage. We have 15, 20, 30 active members on every single call, and about a dozen of those are always talking up and bringing their insights into what's happening. And we'll get into what's actually partaking within the twig here in just a minute, and you'll see how that impact is significant. One thing that I'd like to highlight is you do tend to see within SNIA and the technical working groups, a lot of it is focused around vendors. And this particular list, you can see we're starting to see additional customers coming of interest through the working groups. We're getting end consumers of this technology participating in the definition work for the vendors that are creating the technology. It's a great example of how SNIA and the collaboration that we have here can drive the industry forward. There's also work being done in the NVMe Express working group, or NVM Express working group. They have one that's called Computational Programs, and I'll give a little bit more about that towards the end of the presentation and what we can do with that. But we are collaborating with that group. A lot of the members of the SNIA twig are participating in that. And it has a lot to do with the fact that SNIA is working on the architectural definition, NVMe is working on a specific command set implementation of it. It shows the collaborative capabilities of SNIA in the overall marketplace. When I mentioned consumers are talking about it, so here's a couple of shout outs to some member companies you can see that are doing blogs, presentations, prototypes on computational storage work in the industry, so that it's not just the vendors pushing the technology, which is very important from me as a board of director to highlight, and as a potential vendor in the space to be excited about. So it's great to see that there's continued traction in the marketplace. The market's evolving to accept and deploy these solutions. And there are a lot of new buzzwords that we're seeing in this space, and a lot of unique things that are coming out related to computational storage, and people talking about, well, is it a competitor to, is it replacing this, is it replacing that? Hopefully you'll see as we go through what's coming next, and as far as the output of the work coming from the technical working group, that it's all about collaboration. It's not about replacing something, it's about bringing new value. It's about helping people architect systems in new ways that take advantage of new technologies we simply haven't had for years before. And that's part of the focus that we've had within the technical working group, is to drive that technology effort forward. So what's new? The Computational Storage Working Group did just release an updated version of our architectural document. We had a 0.5, we've made it to a 0.8. Some people have asked, well, what is the difference between 0.5 and 0.8? It's a revision. 0.6 and 7, we had some fun with that. The big thing here is we're not quite ready for what we classify as a fully released product. It's still a slight work in progress, and we need feedback on this. Part of that is we need to have a lot of external parties review it, consumers of it, potential vendors in the space, someone that doesn't have it as close to heart as I do, being able to take a look at the document and giving us feedback on what's going on with that. So this 0.8 is now out. I'll give you some details on what's changing from that document on the next slide. But we also released something different in the way of a computational storage API document. This is a first level support of customer interface, how to work with these some of these solutions and products. That's a 0.5. It's an initial release of that particular document. They are tied together. There is references to each other's documents, if you will, in some ways, as we go forward, because you can't have hardware and software independent of one another, things like that. And this is a unique product where we are bringing compute and storage and software all into one unique device, or many of unique devices that are being created in the market space. And another reason we haven't gone full 1.0 is security. So cyber is a big word right now, cybersecurity, threat models, things like that. A lot of the twig members that are in computational storage working group are not security experts by any stretch, especially like folks like myself. So we've actually engaged in a collaborative work with the security technical working group as part of SNIA, who is driving standards there and looking at threat models and ways to interact with these devices. And so that work is ongoing, and the efforts that take place there will help drive us to the next 1.0 release and see what in the way of security we can actually incorporate versus what we need to leave out and keep out. So what has really changed? As I mentioned, with more members, there's more understanding. There's also more conversation and change. It simply takes place. So if you've had an opportunity to review the SNIA EMEA presentation that the CS SIG chair, Ellie Tiomkin, presented, he went through the definitions in detail. We're trying to make sure that all these virtual events and these live events have build on the technology. So feel free to go back. That is available on SNIA video. And you can go take a look at that to get more detail. If not, go to the SNIA dictionary at snia.org, Google, or use the search engine, Google, yeah, there you go. Use the search engine to grab computational storage and take a look at all the different definitions that we have out there. Now, from a document perspective and what we've actually put in the architectural document, we've recreated the block diagrams for the computational storage devices. We do have a lot of acronyms. All good industry collaboration must have at least a number of three-letter acronyms. So please pay attention to those as you read through the document. The highest level one is called a CS little x as a variable for computational storage devices. Within that, we have a computational storage processor, CSP. We have a computational storage drive, which indicates a storage device, and then a computational storage array, which represents a collection of compute engines and storage. And again, those are all built into the dictionary. Those are all defined within the architectural document. I've included a snapshot of the CSD in this particular case, just to help with the definitions that show in the highlights on this slide. So we used to have a CSP within the CSP. Basically, we called the processing engine within these devices a processor, and it started to create some unique confusion and opportunity. So we renamed the internal inside the devices CSP to a CSE, or computational storage engine. That engine is what is going to power the compute resources within the device, whether it's a processor, an array, or a drive. Now, we also need to worry about environments. How does that engine work? So we've created a term called CSEE, or computational storage engine environment. So if we look at it from a high level, one of the things that drove this is there's devices that have a computational storage engine, which is a containerized application and a Linux OS. Sorry, a Linux OS is the engine. So your capability to do compute is through the Linux OS. The environment is in the use of the containers to deploy a particular computational storage function. So the function operates in an environment on an engine within the drive. So we've got this thing nailed down. In some pieces, we could probably say we've got a little too deep, but at the same time, it's great work by the members that we've put into this, and a lot of time and energy has gone in to help make this a very easy to understand framework. And we've put all of these particular things into what we classify as a resource repository. Now, that resource repository can contain products that are not currently active and can be pre-installed, downloaded, all those different things. And it's all described in greater detail within the architectural document. And we're going to do a bit of a deep dive at SDC US around the architectural document as one of the presentations at that event. So again, we're trying to build on this and bring it all to fruition, put it across multiple opportunities. One very long video and a deep dive of the document is not the right way to go, especially in the Zoom world that we're living in today. So there's also discovery and configuration in that particular document. And one of the other things that we did was to make sure and go through and provide use cases. So we put them in an annex. We didn't want it to be a holistic implementation, but this is members of the technical working group that have brought in implementations of computational storage and how you as a user, or you as a vendor, or you as a consumer of this technology can review and understand what's going on. So it's Annex B, start page 37. I did some nice screen caps of the titles of them all from the table of contents. So you can see here, anything from Ceph to Linux operating systems with containers, to scatter gather, data filters, and even OpenCL. So lots of things to review, read. Number one, if you're a member, come join us, help us define it. We'll work with you, especially from a time zone perspective, because we do know that there's some uniquenesses around the time zones. We will be able to create time-friendly environments for the Indian participants as they continue to grow into the working group. So please feel free to join us. Shout out to me and or my co-chair, Jason, if you have any questions about that, because we do not want to preclude the participation simply based on a time zone. Another thing that we've created is that API document. So you can see this is some of the key topics there. This is a graphic I grabbed from that document as well. As you can see, there's lots of unique ways we take that drive level product, and that's why I used the drive on the previous slide, and how the API can interact to drive what's being done with that. Now, we do have some graphic details, graphic as in images, sorry, that just came out really wrong. Graphic details around how to use these as much as we do flowcharts and just text around that. So lots of things are going on within the technical working group, and we want to make sure that everyone's up to speed with what's going on, make sure that you're aware of what kind of participation levels are available and what can be done with these architectures today. So from a what do we do now, what's next? I want to just shout out and say, join us if you haven't already. There's great opportunity to continue to participate It seems like it's an awfully large group of people, and yes, there are a lot of people that are participating in the work, but everyone's contributing and bringing technology to market. So if you're not in part of SNIA, please join us. If you are a part of SNIA and you want to join the twig, again, feel free to reach out to me and or my co-chair or any of the supporters of the event today, and they'll be able to help drive you to that direction. We do have lots of opportunity to bring you into the fold, if you will, within this organization and help us drive this technology forward. It's great, it's unique. It's been around for a while, but it's finally market ready, and the market is eagerly waiting to accept it. It seems odd sometimes, you might think about that, but yes, there is a need for this technology. It's augmentative to everything else that's out there, and it is in a lot of ways a way of creating new innovation. The NVM Express group, as I mentioned, they have a computational storage task group called Computational Programs. We are working with them. They're going to have a command set that they're planning to hopefully have deployable and public around the SDC US event. So we will be participating with them in a co-sponsored event if they're able to get that done. If not, we'll still be able to provide whatever publicly available information is available for that event. So lots of unique opportunities that take place in the computational storage space. The twig is growing. It is not stagnant. It is actively moving around. We're doing all kinds of unique and great opportunistic things. So, of course, the big shout out, don't forget, you get to rate the session. Again, this is meant to be an overview. I did not give a lot of detail. I did not spend a lot of time on any one slide. My focus here was just to say computational storage is real. SNIA is driving it. We want your participation if you'd like to join us. If you're going to be a consumer of it, please feel free to give us that feedback. The public documents are on SNIA.org. And again, you can reach out to the computational storage chairs, myself, and or Jason Mulgard from ARM, or you can reach out to the computational storage special interest group, Ellie Tiomkin or Marty Fulton. I did not put anybody's email addresses on this particular slide. So if you're still paying attention and you'd still like to talk to us, I'll give you my corporate one because I don't remember the SNIA direct chair one. It's scott.shadley@ngdsystems.com. If you send me a note and you would just put reference to SNIA on it, I'll make sure it gets back to the right folks. And as a board member of SNIA, I appreciate you taking time to participate in this event. As the co-chair of the Computational Storage Working Group, thank you very much for your interest in helping drive this technology forward. And as Scott Shadley, a SoCal guy, I really appreciate you taking the time to listen, participate, engage in SNIA, SNIA India, and all the great work that's being done in this industry. A valuable area of important work to be done, and a lot of that is being driven in new and innovative ways out of India and the partnerships with the multi-global organizations that take place in that. So we appreciate your time. Feel free to give us a rating and check out the information, go back. I do tend to talk fast. So if I say something too quick, there's a wonderful thing called replay. Have a wonderful day, afternoon, evening. I know this presentation is being presented towards the end of the day on day 2. So if you've had a great conference, I'm very happy about that. If you've just joined late to the conference, don't forget to go back and look at other presentations within that. So again, a final goodbye from the SNIA Board of Directors. Have a wonderful afternoon and evening, and we do hope you enjoyed the conference.